Hey, you guys, this is Shanita. Thank you for clicking onto this video. I'm going to tell you up front that this is sort of a podcast video that I'm going to post on YouTube, which means I'm not going to come on camera because I'll do this periodically if I don't have anything to show you or if I am just relaxing and tore up from the floor up and don't want to come on camera. And that is certainly the situation today. I'm doing some serious relaxing today. I typically do healthy natural hair videos. So feel free to look around if you are new. Check out some of the other videos on the channel and you will see lots of natural hair videos and products and reviews and my thoughts about all things natural hair. And I am on here very, very regularly, almost every day now. So if you would love to subscribe, then feel free to. I am sure you will find something that will be helpful to you, and I will be back on the screen on tomorrow. But we want to talk about the Self-Made docuseries. A couple of you have asked my opinion about it since I had put out a request asking you all to watch it, and so this is going to be my thoughts about that docuseries. First of all, I want to say if you have not seen it, then you want to click off of this video because I'm telling you, I'm going to spoil it for you. This is your spoiler alert. Click off and then maybe come back on and watch it after you have seen the docuseries. This is one of those things I suggest that everybody watch for themselves before you read someone else's review. This is sort of like what we say about our natural hair products, right? You know, what works for one person may not work for another. So sometimes you just have to try things for yourself. And that is how I am going to speak about this docuseries. I think everybody needs to see them for themselves. So if you haven't seen it before, click off. Bye-bye. I am sorry. Join us tomorrow and we will be back up showing videos. So the rest of you, I want to tell you that I learned so much from this docuseries. Now, a lot of things have come out that they have said that was not true, and I'm going to share with you my thoughts about the movie itself, and then we'll talk about some of the things that I found out a little later that was true, and try to correct some of the things that was just kind of being creative in the actual movie itself. So I really liked it. I thought it was very, very well done. Octavia Spencer and Blair Underwood did their thing as they always do. Amazing actors. There has been some, I've heard several reviews out there where people have been very confused about Tiffany Haddish being in that docuseries. Tiffany Haddish played a Tiffany Haddish character to me. When I first saw her on there, I wasn't sure how she was going to be played, but then as I watched it, I thought this is typical Tiffany Haddish material. This is definitely her brand. I didn't know whether they were trying to say that the daughter was, you know, like that, very goofy and playing around and entertaining and having a good time, or if they just did this for the entertainment value. And so as I watched it, I was confused throughout the movie thinking, okay, is this what the daughter was? Or did they write this particular part up for Tiffany? Did they write it with her in mind? Or did they want her to be in it and knew they had to put something in there that she would easily be able to adjust to? I don't know. I was kind of confused about that. But in the end, I kind of loved how they showed her character grow and get a little bit more serious and business minded. And so in the end, I finally got it. But let me say also, you guys, this video is all over the place. I don't have a special outline. I am just coming to you with the thoughts that I have. I did jot down some notes here and there. So if you hear me turning over a piece of paper, that's what it is. But I don't have any outline, just wherever my thoughts go about the movie, that's kind of what I am letting you know about. Okay, so the Tiffany Haddish thing was a big thing that stood out to me. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about and ask you guys' opinion about was the relationship between Sarah and CJ. Madam CJ Walker's real name was Sarah Breedlove, and the husband's name was CJ. And so there has been a lot of people talking about how they thought the movie showed Sarah emasculating CJ. Um, that they played too much of an emphasis on her being the success person and him kind of being the person who didn't feel like he was valued so much, and so it like showed her at a higher stature, if you would, than him, and that she often didn't take his advice and he was kind of counted out. And I read that a lot, and honestly, you guys, I just didn't get that. Like, maybe I'm a different kind of woman, but I just didn't see that. To me, in the movie, I thought initially, they worked together. They had ideas together. He originally wasn't gonna move for her. He ended up doing that. He played a good part in the advertising and helping of the company. He even was making products himself in the beginning. Like, they worked together as partners. Now, other people outside of them gave him, well, some people gave him a hard time, like saying, she was the successful one and making it seem like he was just the helper, and making it seem like he wasn't valued and that his success was just basically because she was successful. And I think he let a lot of that go to his head, and he became so insecure. And then he wanted the attention and he wanted to come up with ideas she just wasn't always feeling. I don't feel like she ever made him feel like he was useless or not needed. I just think she was so driven and so motivated, and she would just get an idea out of nowhere and work her plan until she got the result she wanted. And so he may have felt insecure about that. He may have felt like he wasn't a part of the business, but that insecurity that brewed in him that caused him to then go out and have an affair and mess with these other women, I don't see that as her problem. I don't see that as something she caused because she wasn't giving him the attention he needed. I think that was his own security. That's on him. I didn't see that as being on her. And maybe that's just me. You guys tell me what you think. I mean, maybe I'm just an odd one in this one. I didn't feel that way. The way it was actually played out in the movie, I just did not think that she um, made him seem like just a little handy help boy. I think that he played an active role in her success, and he failed to pressure and his own insecurity and his own not feeling like he was enough. That was internal stuff he was struggling with that made him do that. Trying to think what else stood out to me. Oh, the other thing is, and this is like very back to the very beginning and about Sarah Breedlove just from jump. The idea in my mind that back in the 1800s, she was the first of her family members who was not born in, who was not a slave, and went from a family of slaves to being a millionaire is mind boggling to me. Like, in a time centuries ago, while some people were being slaved and beat and worked their fingers to the bones and couldn't rest, barely could eat, couldn't commune with each other. And here this lady was making a success of herself. It's like it was a gift from God. Like, where did she get that drive? All she'd ever seen was slavery. That's all she'd known. So it was like something special was put down in her that gave her this drive. And whatever she wanted, she went after. And she generally succeeded in that. We know from real life now that her great granddaughter, whose name is A'Lelia Bundles, she is alive today, and she has come out since the docuseries and corrected or, you know, told her side and what she knew about the truth versus what the docuseries showed. And so she has shared that you know how the movie put so much of an emphasis on Sarah and Addie, the lady that said that she had stolen her formulation. It put so much emphasis on Addie basically torturing Sarah, always around, always trying to bring her down, always trying to get people to spy on her, she spent so much energy trying to make Sarah miserable. So, according to the great great granddaughter, like in real life, Sarah and Addie did have a rift, they call it. It was a slight rift, but it was nowhere near the kind of fighting and all this verbal confrontations like they showed in the movie. She said it was not like that at all. That in real life, Addie did not dedicate all that time trying to make Sarah miserable. She had her own company to run, and she did ultimately become a successful businesswoman. She was a philanthropist, and so she was busy. It was nothing like what they showed there in the movie. Lelia, who was the daughter played by Tiffany Haddish, later changed her name in real life to A. Lelia. And her great granddaughter is named A. Lelia right after her. So the lady who is alive now, the great great granddaughter, is named after the Tiffany Haddish character, A. Lelia. In real life, she wasn't that I don't want to say airheaded, but I'm trying to think what else stood out to me. I love that Madam C.J. Walker was such an encourager of women. That speech she gave to those wives and to those women at the end, you can tell they were really trying to drive home that she was huge on women being independent and being empowered. Them making lives for themselves and not just to be homemakers and followers of their husbands, but to have a life and some independence of their own was crucial to her. So, like I said, it was just like that was a gift to her. If all she'd known was being under submission of somebody else because of her parents being in slavery, where did she get this gusto? Where did she get this drive to say, I'm going to do something different, and then I'm going to bring other women behind me to show them how to do something different? So her story in itself is just incredible to me. I love the idea that her one product made her a millionaire. Back then it was that one product. And so I compare that now to the fact that in real life, the Madam C.J. Walker brand, which is sold at Sephora, it is an actual brand, they have 11 products. So from that time to now, they've increased their products and they have 11 products. And I like to think of the companies now and how fast they grow. You think about like a Main Choice or Shea Moisture. It seems like they are coming out with a new collection every week. It seems like every month anyway. And so they have all of these products up under that one line. There's 6 or 7 products under each line. And so to think that this one product actually made her rich, it's just fascinating to me. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always been fascinated with hair and black hair. I noticed when I was younger that other cultures did not put as much emphasis on their hair as we did. Like for us, it was almost an extension of us. We saw it as this literal crown and glory. It is the first thing people saw, and we just always have cared about our hair. I've always been fascinated about why is that? Where did that come from? That love of hair that we now all have that goes back centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. And so even in Madam Walker's time, like even she knew the hair loss and the scalp sores that she was experiencing. She wanted a different kind of product. She wanted something to care and to help her hair. So it's like it started even before her, but this story just kind of got me interested in that mindset of how loving black hair, how far it actually truly goes back. And so the real Sarah Breedlove, Madam C.J. Walker's. They say that her real product actually consisted a lot of petroleum and sulfur. And I thought that was interesting. You know, we consider petroleum now the devil. I know it's used still in a lot of hair greases and pomades, but to think that back then, to get their hair healthy, they were using petroleum and using sulfur in their products to make their hair healthy and to prep their hair to get it to grow. And so how far we've come, you know, we are so far beyond that now. We don't want anything with petroleum in it. And I know time has changed. So many different ingredients have been proven to do so many other things, but it just shows what happens when you are consistent. Whatever they were using, they used it consistently because it clearly worked. In those times, she was a millionaire. Can you imagine with those little 50-cent tins how many she must have actually created? And so we use things now that are totally different, but about that consistency, it shows that it's just important. That was something to bring out. And I'm trying to think about the other characters. What I would have loved in the docuseries, if I could have changed anything, I would have made CJ play more of a role like her. Oh gosh, I can't even think of his name and I don't have it written down. The guy who was her manager, the one who worked right up under her. I would have made him more like that. That way it would have seemed more like they were partners rather than these two people that were straying away from each other because of success. I would have had them to play more of a character. I think that manager did a great job in sticking by her and wanted to see the company succeed. I loved that they showed that. And there was a man propping up a woman and wanting her to do good. I love that message that it sent. That, you guys, I think it's about all of the opinions that I had. I really saw a lot. I laughed a lot. I was sad a lot. A lot of part was serious. Some of it was hysterical. Some of it was confusing. I went through such a range of emotions, but overall, I think it was very, very well done. The costumes were amazing. How they set it up in those times where it looked so old and real. They did a very good job of that. And all in all, like I said, I know that some of it was real and some of it was kind of storytelling just to beef up the story to make it more interesting. But I thought it was truly, truly well done. And I don't feel like I wasted my time at all. Now, what I would like to tell you is some of the things that I have read about since then that was different from the movie. Now, this is not going to be everything, but it's just the main characters and things that, again, just stood out to me as things that I wanted you all to know the truth about and didn't want you relying on the movie as facts. So I'm going to share some of those. So one of the first things that I found out that I found that was interesting to me was that Sarah started seeing CJ earlier on, and reports say that she was still married to her first abusive husband when she started seeing him. They were still kind of in an unhappy situation at that time, but that he lived in walking distance and that she had started to see him before she divorced. Blair Underwood, as I said before, did this role amazingly, but I love that they took a beautiful brown brother to play the role. They say in real life, CJ Walker was very, very light-skinned. CJ Walker, the real one, actually, and I know within the movie as well, they showed him as doing some advertising and some publicity for the brand, but in real life, he really was in advertising. They said that he sold like subscriptions and advertising, and he had done some reporting for one of the black newspapers in the area, and that he was very well liked. He was charming, and that he was very a self-promoter type anyway on his own. He had worked at a barbershop and a saloon before then, and so he just had this gift of being a charmer and self-promoter. So once he started doing the work for the newspaper, like he just was the perfect person to go ahead and work on advertising the brand for them. And so that was very interesting. They in real life, CJ really did help grow the business. He had worked in real estate while the company was going on. He'd worked in entertainment and also in real estate. And that he sent a lot of customers her way, that he worked really good with the company as it was coming up, and that they were thought to be one of the power couples back then. He started the mail order business, CJ did. He started a real life mail order business, I guess our version of online ordering products now. And so they traveled all over for 18 months or so, expanding the business, and it was growing very quickly. The headquarters was in Pittsburgh in 1907, and then in 1910, the headquarters was in Indianapolis. And it says that that is around the time when CJ struggled to kind of keep up with Madam Walker's vision. He tried to sell these scammy knockoff health remedies like rheumatic and sore cure type products that did not go anywhere, and some of the ingredients that was in it was eventually banned by the FDA. And so CJ's biggest issue, from what I gather, was actually the infidelity. But the marriage broke down not only because of the infidelity, but also it said that he was very financially irresponsible. So you remember in the movie also where they showed that CJ's dad was very close to Sarah, and that he was the one who talked to her a lot about, CJ's running arounds and all of his shortcomings. Well, in real life, that wasn't CJ's dad, but it was CJ's younger sister, and her name was Peggy. So I thought it was interesting that they swapped that out for his dad. I mean, I know they probably had a reason for doing that, but I thought that that was interesting. Peggy, again, CJ's sister, came to live with Sarah and CJ after their mom died. And with Peggy and CJ in real life started squandering company funds. So they were doing illegal things in the business, and it said that they were going out and meeting the mailman and kind of intercepting some of the mail. They were getting the money, but not necessarily filling all the orders. And so Sarah eventually found out that some of the company funds had been mismanaged, and found out that it was the two of them, and that CJ had been using the money to buy, fancy clothes, buy things for other women, and fancy cars, and he was really squandering the money. So going back to now real life, A'Lelia Bundles, the one who's still alive today, she said that their marriage in the end was not it wasn't an affectionate marriage. It was more of a business arrangement, and that they had stayed together like a lot of people did back then, just for people's sake, just to have it look like they were actually a business together. CJ ended up, and he had an affair with several people, you guys, in real life, but he did have an affair with a lady named Dora. They met up in Birmingham while Madam Walker was in Mississippi, and Dora ended up promising CJ, who was so gullible by this time, that if he married her instead, that she would let him lead, that she would let him be the master of everything, and that she wouldn't push him to the side. And so, of course, he fell for that. And, of course, when they got married, Dora did not do any of that. And eventually, CJ did a letter to a local newspaper basically saying that Dora only wanted the title of Madam Walker, and she wanted Sarah's formula, but she really meant him no good at all. Dora had CJ arrested for interfering with her business, and that he also did the same thing, had been tying up her mail that was coming. And so he did the same thing with both women. So it was actually the combination of the his financial irresponsibility and the adultery that caused her to file divorce. And they ended up divorcing in 1912. There was a court hearing. CJ never showed up, and the judge granted the divorce. There was a scene in the movie where it showed that Sarah ended up sleeping with CJ one last time. Do you remember that, after he had slept with the other lady and had moved out, and it showed that she had come back to him about something and they ended up sleeping together? The report that is absolutely not true, that did not happen. She did not sleep with him anymore after he fooled around. Good for her. Peggy, the younger sister, was the one who always kind of let Sarah know what CJ was doing. She was the one who ultimately convinced Sarah to get a divorce, showing and telling her how CJ just was up to no good and was not good for her. Now, as for Lelia, played by Tiffany Haddish, the movie showed that she really didn't come into her own until they relocated to New York, and where she just got so enthralled and loved the 20th century life in Harlem. But in real life, she started working for her mother and had attended Knoxville College in Tennessee, and she was the overseer of their Pittsburgh operation from 1908 to 1914. She ran a cosmetology school and named the cosmetology school Lelia College. She then moved to New York, and she became the manager of a company called Walker College of Hair Care. And then she ended up taking control of her mom's business after Sarah died in 1919. Oddly enough, when Sarah died, Lelia was the one who, of course, took over. She'd gone to live in her mom's mansion in New York. They say she threw all kinds of parties. There was cosmetology school there. She changed the name to Alelia. This is after she legally changed her name from Lelia to Alelia. And so the estate where the house was and the schools all became named after her. So they were Alelia this and Alelia's party, Alelia's company. And so it really became a broad part of who she was. They portrayed that character of the daughter as being unhappy in her marriage. And it also shown some scenes that made it suggest that she may have been lesbian or maybe bisexual. And the great-great-granddaughter says that there's no known knowledge of that part was actually written in as well. And just as the series showed, Alelia did not have any children, so she ended up adopting a young lady who they did show in the movie. That part of it was correct. She adopted a daughter named Fairy Mae Bryant, and Fairy Mae ended up changing her name to May Walker. So she was just May Walker, and May Walker is the grandmother of Alelia Bundles, the lady who is alive now. The adopted daughter is her grandmother. I hope that makes sense, you guys. So, me starting this video saying I wanted it to be short. When have I ever made a short video? I really try, you guys. But there's sometimes when I'm thinking of stuff or seeing stuff, it's just like, oh, I should say this. And oh, I should say this. And it end up being so long. But this one, I wanted to let you know the facts about and to differentiate them from what part of it was the movie. Because if you didn't know a whole lot about it, it would be easy to think that everything they showed in the movie was 100% true. And it was not. But it did show a good bit, and it got the broad picture of what her life was about. I probably would have liked to seen the movie actually like it was after I read a lot of that stuff and found out the real story. I'm thinking, this is just as interesting to me. Like, why did they choose to switch characters and do some of that stuff? But nevertheless, I think it did just enough to make people interested, like me, in finding out sort of the the backstory and knowing the truth of what actually happened. Very well done. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you do, or if you haven't finished it, I suggest you do. There was a lot of interesting little takes in there, and I want to know what stood out to you. What part of that for you was interesting? What stood out to you? Like for me, so much happened in the movie, but there are just certain little things that stood out to me that I thought was worth mentioning, and I want to know what stood out to you, because it probably wasn't some of the same things. And make any notes down in the comment section about things you'd like to share. I would love to hear your take on it. That's all, you guys. That is all I can think of. If I put this out here and later think of something else, then I will add it in the description box. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I will be back on screen tomorrow, and we will press on with some more natural hair info. You guys take care of yourself and have a great day. Until next time, bye-bye.